Hey, how you doing? Welcome to a podcast that I recorded back in February with Wesley Chiles. Wesley Chiles is the owner of a company called Chiles Enterprises. They do landscaping, Treecare, and Turfcare in, where are they at? Louisa, Virginia, or what's commonly known as the Lake Anna area. This was a really great experience for me to get to know one of my customers better. I mean, I've been working with Wesley for 3 or 4 years now, and we handle his website and his marketing, but I didn't really know the guy very well until we did this podcast, and I had no idea what an incredible man he is. Wesley started this company when he was a boy. He was like 10 years old, and listening to his story of growing a business from the age of 10 to he's been in business now for 19 years, it's quite an incredible story, and it had its ups and downs, but Wesley's guide was always his faith in God, and he even used the Bible as his business guidebook, and he talks about that in this podcast, which is really interesting. I haven't heard very many people talk about Jesus and his disciples as the example they use to base the leadership structure of their company on. So I hope you enjoy listening to this conversation. Wesley is a truly authentic person, and this was just a fantastic conversation. I do want to warn you that we did this over Zoom, and there was a slight problem with the audio. Every time I started talking, there would be some feedback for a second or two. So I apologize for that. It makes it a little difficult to listen to at times, but at least you can understand what's being said. And more importantly, you can understand what Wesley's saying. So without any further ado, meet Wesley Chiles.
How is my background looking? I can do something.
It looks great.
Thank you. Yeah, I apologize. My computer hadn't been on for a while. It is so slow cranking up. I know I should try to do a cleaning or something on it, but it took out 5 minutes to pull in my emails. Which was nuts.
How many emails do you think you get in a day?
Oh, I'm not sure. Probably 80 to 100, I'm sure. So, what was it? Day before yesterday, I had 102 phone calls, and then yesterday I had 80.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's been crazy, man. We've never had so much snow, like that I can remember, and we've got more contracts than we ever have, and we got into selling salt too. So we buy like tractor trailer loads of bulk rock salt, and they dump it on the ground, and then we kind of developed a funnel and stuff like that where we actually put it in these huge 1-ton bags and then resell it. So I've sold like a crazy, like tractor trailer loads of sacks out to like school systems and resorts and the local power station and things like that. So that was kind of a whole different business that emerged. And of course we use it ourselves too. So, but anyways, what's up, man? What's on our agenda today?
Well, wait, I want to hear more about that snow, but I can hear myself talking to you. Is there a way to fix that? Oh wait, now it's gone.
Is it?
Okay.
I didn't really do anything, so.
Well, yeah, it's like I'll say something and then I can hear myself like 10 seconds later or like 2 seconds later, but it seems to be working now.
Okay. Yeah, if there's an echo, let me know.
So this snow removal stuff, is this all commercial? Because in the past you only wanted to do commercial.
Yeah. So we do 13 Lowe's stores across the state. We assist with taking care of the snow removal at North Anna Power Station. It's a nuclear power station here in the county. We take care of Shenandoah Crossing Resort, which is a blue-green vacations resort with, I don't know, probably almost 200 cabin sites and things like that, RV camper spots. And then we do a bunch of local stuff in town for shopping centers and the bank and insurance companies, some factories in our industrial park. So yeah, we have a bunch of stuff going on. Yeah, it's a lot, and I haven't even counted. I bet it's 36 people that are kind of a part of our snow removal operations that are, regular, folks on staff, people that just help us seasonally when we have the snow event, partnering companies that we work with that we can subcontract to. So it kind of becomes a big network.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, last time we spoke, you were saying that, snow removal wasn't top priority, but now it's like snowed a whole bunch and look what happened.
Yeah. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, it's not something that we necessarily want to throw fuel on the fire for, because we are already so committed, and, we can't have with so many contracts and do them well. So, so we don't necessarily want to push advertising it because we organically just have so much business. Now, selling the salt, it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of blossomed to its own little thing. We're buying a better funnel. We built one homemade out of lumber, and we're about to buy like a metal one that would be really, legit. We're getting a big scale where we can weigh these things and exact measurements on them, and, things like that. But, selling salt might be in fact, I had a year that I sold 13 tractor trailer loads of salt to a customer in North Carolina that I never met, and I never saw 1 ounce of that salt. I was just kind of the middleman on it. And that was probably like 4 or 5 years ago now. So I kind of been in the salt business for a while, but it's got its ups and downs depending on how bad the winter is.
Oh, that's great. I'm so happy to hear that. Taking care of a nuclear power station and stuff like that, that's super important. Texas is experiencing that right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing with Dominion Energy owns it, and their top priority is safety. Like, they don't care if something takes twice as long. If it's done safely, that's what's important to them. And I mean, you can't even imagine the systems, trainings, and processes that are in place for safety there. And so obviously something that presents an obvious safety hazard, they're attacking it with everything they have. So, I mean, we're talking rental equipment that comes in, and they've been buying salt from us by the tractor trailer load as well. And just around the clock, care. Safety is so important. And I mean, that nuclear station probably provides power for half of the state, I'm sure. I mean, it's crazy, the efficiency of nuclear energy. But
well, that's awesome. So thanks for joining me for this podcast today. I've been wanting to get you on for a while. I've heard bits and pieces of your origin story before, and I remember thinking it was really cool. So why don't we start there? How did Chiles Enterprises Landscaping come about?
All right. Well, I hope you packed a lunch, because it's been 19 years. It's a lot to share. But when I was 10 years old, there was a little old lady. No disrespect to little old ladies out there, but there was a little old lady in our neighborhood that had just moved to the neighborhood, and she had asked my mom if she knew of any good lawn care providers. She needed someone to mow her grass. And she said, well, Wesley's out of shape and could use the exercise. Why don't you get him to cut your grass? So 10 years old, the lady bought a mower, and she put her son came and put gas, in it, and brought a gas tank. And then I would ride. Well, I didn't have a bike then. I would walk to her house a little less than a mile, and my parents would drop me off, and I'd mow her lawn, every week or so. And I got $35 for that. And I always wanted a go-kart. I always wanted to go fast. I had my cousins, they had go-karts and dirt bikes and all that. And quite frankly, my parents couldn't really afford it. I asked Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny every year, and it just never happened. So I was saving up my money to get a go-kart. Well, I realized that a bicycle would probably be a good investment, because I was kind of tired of walking, that mile or whatnot. So I bought a bicycle, and that allowed me to commute to work as a 10 and 11-year-old. And when I finally had saved up enough money, I bought a riding mower instead. I was tired of getting hit in the shins with the acorns and the sticks, quite frankly. But I never really was in it for the money. This lady was a super nice lady. She happened to be a realtor and just very kind. And she appreciated the work that I did. And, it's kind of an instant gratification when you show up that, the place looks kind of shabby. When you leave, it looks really nice and clean. And I just kind of thrived off of that. So when I was, I believe I was 13, I finally got that riding mower. And I I used that for about a year or two, picked up a couple of more jobs. My dad would drive me around. My uncle would lend us his trailer. Just so many people that kind of played a role into early success. Because as I said, we didn't really have, a lot of money. Really, when I was first working those first 2 years, my parents were kind of taking that money and paying bills with it, which I was totally fine with, because what do I need money for at 10 years old? It just so happened that they did a little shift or something with a retirement plan or something of that nature. They had a little money come in, and they had kept track of how much money they had kind of used for bills and things. And they gave it all back to me. And that's how I was able to buy the riding mower. So it was kind of a good savings account for me, in some ways. So I didn't just start buying video games or something. But so that was awesome. Like I said, a lot of people that helped, like, borrow a truck and trailer and things. That riding mower caught on fire on me when I was 14. And I learned the value of insurance because I didn't have any. Ironically, it was at a professional fireman's house. I'll never forget it. And I just topped the gas tank off with gas. And the way the Cub Cadet riding mowers worked is the gas tank is right underneath the seat. And what the fireman told me was that was the equivalent of 6 sticks of dynamite that I was sitting on top of. So I remember when that thing was on fire, it was kind of this house was somewhat near an intersection. I just kind of ran to the intersection and stood back and watched. Because I was working, my parents allowed me to have a cell phone. Now that's commonplace for a 10-year-old or 14-year-old, however old I was. But that was a big deal in my time. So I called 911, of course. And while I'm waiting for the the fire truck to show up, I just remember, like, praying and, like, crying and praying and being like, Lord, I thought this is what you had for me. Like, I thought this was what I was supposed to do. This had been going so well. I had actually just been published in the local newspaper. They had done a write-up on, my business. And this lawnmower, man, I put tire shine on it. It was waxed. Like, I even had, like, scent that I sprayed on the steering wheel, like, to make, like, it was like my first car, And I was just so upset. And I thought, man, I thought this was my calling in life. And, what was interesting was in the coming weeks, I got a phone call from a gentleman in Zion Crossroads that had a repair shop. And he said, Wesley, I want you to bring that lawnmower to me. And I said, man, you don't understand. This thing is just like, it was nothing but a metal frame. All the plastic had melted. And, he said, well, bring it to me. So we figured out a way to get it to him. And he asked me if I had the receipt for it. And I said, well, no, I don't have the receipt. And a day or two later, he calls me and he said, I determined that it was a manufacturer defect, the reason that this mower caught on fire. I'm going to give you a store credit to Lowe's in full for the value, what the sale price was. And let's say that was $2,700. A couple years later, we found the receipt and I paid $2,200 for it. So not only did this guy, blessing in disguise, right? I got more money than what I paid for it. And I got this gift card to Lowe's. So I was like, all right, this is awesome. This guy just found out about me from, like, the newspaper and had heard that my mower caught on fire, which is just a huge blessing. So I had this store credit, and around this time, the economy was starting to change. So I believe this was somewhere around the 2008, boom. And I could tell that they were manufacturing mowers cheaper and cheaper, more and more plastic, more things from overseas. They weren't really made as well as what they used to be made. And zero turns were kind of an up-and-coming thing. So I asked my dad, I said, Dad, I really don't want to buy, a mower or equipment that's not of good quality. Can we go buy a zero-turn mower, like a commercial, nice, well-made mower? And so we went and looked at them, and they were, $8,000, crazy expensive, and obviously not at Lowe's. So Dad made me a deal. He said, well, I'll do the financing, and you've got to make payments. Obviously, at 14, you can't get a loan. So he said, but if you don't make the payments, it goes back. I can't afford it. So we financed a zero-turn mower, went and used the gift card to Lowe's for a landscape trailer, and needed a truck to pull it with. This is an 18-foot trailer. All we had was a car that we used to pull around my first mower with, a Pontiac Bonneville. So went and looked at a pickup truck. Again, keep in mind, I'm 14, 15 years old. I didn't have my learner's permit yet. So we took a friend with us, and he said, Wes, if you don't buy this truck, I will. This is a good truck. And he was right. So I couldn't even test drive my first truck, but I bought it, and Dad brought it home, and we rode around and mowed, weed eated, and pulled weeds, and whatever I could find. So I was in business, and of course that was my first truck, and we still have it. It's been, I don't know, 15 years now, and I just made an agreement to get that truck fully restored, and it's going in the garage. That's my baby, but it's my first truck. But so when I turned 16, I bought a tractor. I had been subcontracting my agriculture teacher to run. He had a piece of equipment, a skid steer, so he would come and we would do jobs together. And I was learning kind of the larger projects, landscape construction, erosion control, excavating, and drainage from him. And for him, the jobs I had were probably pretty small. So he was pretty excited when I bought my tractor because, they weren't necessarily his bread and butter, but I learned a lot from him. And so when the same week I got my driver's license, I bought a tractor, and they actually put me in the newspaper for that too. Teen earns license, buys first tractor, which is totally, a country hick, kind of news heading, right? That's what every country boy wants. When he can get a license, he gets a tractor, I guess. But I had paid off that zero-turn mower I bought within a year, so Dad let me get another one. So then I had 2 zero-turn mowers. And the tractor. I had friends that were helping me on the weekends. Of course, was working during the summer. I had some of my teachers that would help me out on the weekends or help me out during the summer. By the time I was a senior in high school, I was doing about $70,000 in revenue, and I was really at a crossroads. Do I go to college? Do I keep working? At the time, society was really saying, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. My sister's really smart. She got a bachelor's degree in 3 years. She was salutatorian or something of her class, governor's school. The top. And so my parents kind of had this expectation that I needed to go to college. I really didn't know what that, looked like for me because I already had a business going and I loved it. So I remember one Sunday morning I was in church and my cousin Rodney Hopkins came over and I was just kind of, tearing up and, he asked what was going on. And I kind of told him, I said, look, I don't know. Do I go to school? Do I work? And he said, you need to go to college. And there's a 2-year program at Virginia Tech that I ended up doing. And Rodney was a graduate of that program. And he said, you need to do both. He said, don't get rid of your business. Whether you take out a short-term loan or find subcontractors, you already have the hardest part done. You've got your reputation out there and you've got it off the ground. Don't throw that away. But you need to go to school. So after that, I was kind of like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So went to Virginia Tech. I did a 2-year degree in turf grass and landscape management. It's an amazing program. You take classes that are strictly relevant to what you're studying, so no underwater basket weaving or anything like that. Very efficient in and out. During that time, I was able to write my articles of organization for my LLC, my first policy and procedures manual. I made a job application form, interview questions. I love the business management part, which was about 1/3 of the curriculum, 1/3 turf grass and 1/3 landscape and plants. So I had an awesome business teacher, Joe Guthrie. He taught me so much. And that really helped establish some of the fundamentals of my business and being incorporated and things of that nature. So Virginia Tech has an articulation agreement. If you have above a 3.0, you can go into their bachelor's degree program. So I did that for agribusiness. I started off with economics and accounting and English, which are kind of some of my favorite stuff now. The business was starting to double in size while I was doing that. And so we were approaching the 400,000 in revenue mark. I was, 19, 20 years old. And I thought, man, I really, I need to focus on the business. I had a really stressful life trying to manage both. So I started taking classes at the local community college. I did that for about a year. And then we took over the grounds for that community college, which was a 40-acre campus. And again, the doubling in revenue several years in a row where just rapid growth. So I said, you know what, it's time for me to focus on the business. I really don't have to have this degree. For things I didn't know, I knew who to ask. And I built a good team of advisors around me, from insurance agents and bankers to folks in other industries that were doing things well and building systems in their company, to partnering companies like excavating and tree removal. So that's when I just started focusing on the company full time. I did go on and pursue a degree in Christian ministry from Liberty University. I did that online, just kind of for my own spiritual growth. which was amazing. So I finished that a few years ago. As life went on and business got bigger, I realized that I was only one guy and I couldn't do but so much myself. And I needed a good team of people around me. I had a right-hand man, and that right-hand man decided to leave around the time that I was planning to get married. And I thought, I really need to think about how I'm doing this. I want to be a family man. I want to be a good husband. At the time, I wasn't, a father yet, obviously, but I knew I wanted to be a good father and set myself up well for that. And so I thought, what is it that we do? We do several different things. We have maintenance work. We have installation work. We prune things. We mow grass. We spray lawns. We build patios. We plant trees and shrubs. I thought about all the different things we did. And I said, if I were to treat each of those little divisions like they were their own company, I want someone that's going to champion those. I want to build a leadership team, and I want to have somebody that when they wake up in the morning, what they think about is that side of the business. So I started a leadership team. We got away from the company so we could work on the business and not in the business. We went to my living room for about an hour, hour and a half every Monday morning while everyone else got to sleep in. And I just poured into them. I kind of think of it as like, Jesus and the disciples, he had 12 that he worked with and 3 specifically that he poured into. And because of that type of principle, thousands, we're still practicing Christianity today, right? So it multiplied. And he's Jesus, so he could have done it all himself, but he decided to pour into other people. And so I kind of decided that was the approach I wanted. I would spend a lot of time with those couple of people, and I would let them lead the rest of the team. So that structure is something we're still carrying on today as we grow. We actually got rid of the exclusive leadership team meeting last year and went to more of a company-wide meeting. We shortened it, but we still have great, camaraderie amongst our leaders. But that was one of the most pivotal things I could have done. I couldn't do everything myself. I began to learn the art of delegation. I began to think about career paths for people that I hired so that they could come in even at the bottom with no experience and map out a plan for them to become into a place of management or sales where they could be commissioned. And the harder they work, the more they get paid, just like an entrepreneur. And so those have been some things that were really pivotal, key decisions that were made several years ago that have kind of got us to where we are today. So.
Wow, what a story, man.
Thank you.
Oh, so much good stuff in there. I have to ask you about the leadership team part. Did you just kind of come up with that on your own? Were there any books or people that were instrumental in you making that switch?
Well, I think it's kind of a combination of things. I've always been someone that's been steady to pray and relying on that. And like I said, what I shared there was just thinking about Jesus and the disciples, how he poured into a select group. And then because of that, they were able to, reach so many more. So that was probably one of my bigger inspirations. A lot of leadership books talk about delegation. They talk about, surrounding yourself with good people and building other people up. Tony Bass and Michael Gerber wrote a book called The E-Myth Landscape Contractor. The E-Myth is, there is the E-Myth Revisited, and then there's spinoffs in various industries. So that was a pretty cool book. In the E-Myth, it talks about a pie shop. As simple as a pie shop, and how this lady had this very successful pie shop. And then all of a sudden she's busy, and then her key person leaves because they were burnt out. So really developing systems and things like that. Intentionality has kind of been the banner for the last, half a decade for me in building the company. What I want to see happen, it's got to be planned, it's got to be detailed. And if it's not laid out, it's not going to happen more than likely. So just being intentional with my time and making sure we're intentional as a company that what we want to see to life is got steps and plans in place to achieve that.
That's great, man. You could almost look at the Bible as like the original guidebook for like everything, right?
Absolutely.
It's cool to see you pull that inspiration, from the Bible, because I'm reading this book right now called Traction. Have you heard of it?
I haven't.
It's literally about exactly what you said, forming your leadership team. They even have a weekly meeting for the leaders that's an hour and a half long. Like it's almost like exactly what you said.
Well, they say history repeats itself, and I couldn't agree more. Not to get into our current climate of political stuff or the virus or any of that, but it's nothing that really hadn't already happened before. If you look at the Bible, it's all already happened. I mean, they called it plagues instead of a pandemic. Okay, but governments and corruption and just the struggles that people have with whatever. I mean, it's kind of already happened. So yeah, you're right. The Bible has already kind of got it all laid out, which is neat. And that was one thing I'll say, kind of a quick plug for my studies at Liberty. It really helped me make my faith my own. So a lot of people, when they're trying to understand faith, it's hard enough for them just to understand it kind of like in one hat that they wear, right? So maybe in their personal life, but to be able to understand how your faith works at your workplace, how your faith works in your social time, and so on, like the different like hats that we wear as busy people. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't living, I wasn't double-minded. I wasn't putting on different masks depending on where I was or, what hat I had to wear that day. So making my faith my own and learning how that kind of incorporates in all aspects of my life was huge. And I really have to thank Liberty in my studies there for that. And just having that clarity, having that guidance from the Holy Spirit just really, I think, has helped get our company to where it is and continues to. As a result, we're faithful to tithe from our company. So 10% of our profits go to ministry. We are intentional with that. We budget it. It's going to happen. We give it to local ministries and specifically youth organizations. To be honest, I had a great youth group at my church, but at the school, I wasn't really well supported in my faith. So I was kind of a little bit of an outcast. I wasn't the most popular guy. And I think that's why I liked working, because I was working with older, more mature people that loved what I did and they appreciated me. And my peers weren't necessarily the case, But we invest heavily in ministries that reach high school kids like Young Life, FCA, things of that nature, because such a pivotal time for young people. And I want them to find the Lord. I want them to make good decisions with their life and hopefully employ them one day. So
that's great, man. What an inspiration you really are. Like giving back 10%, I think that's super important. A lot of people miss that, but there's so many benefits, not just for the community and the people around you, but for you personally, mentally, to be doing that. I think it's really good for your soul and good for your mind.
Yeah, thank you, man. Well, the way I see it, you can't describe the success that I've had as a business person without saying like it was the work of God. I mean, that's what we pray. Every Monday we start our meetings with a prayer and we just say, Lord, everything we have is yours. We're nothing apart from you. We want you to give us wisdom, give us guidance, and we're going to give you all the praise and the glory for what we're accomplishing here. And that is a steady prayer that we have. And my wife and I have that every day. We pray over our team and safety and we say that. And so to know that that's what we've asked for and that's what he's done, it's the least I can do to return 10%. I mean, it's 100% his. He just asked for 10% of it back. The other 90 we get to play with. We get to be stewards of. So anyways, yeah, I think it's absolutely important to not forget who got you where you are.
Definitely. So, you've been at this for a long time. You've obviously had a lot of success with it. It's easy. One of my questions was going to be, why are so many landscapers I come across so enthusiastic about what they're doing? But I could see why you are enthusiastic. But it's kind of a thing. It's like, of all the customers I have, it's always the landscapers that are just like so on the ball, just ready to go. But with all your experience, what is one piece of advice you'd give to like somebody just getting started in this landscaping world?
It's hard for me in some ways to shift gears because it has been a while, but there's been stages. The way that I'm running a company right now and the things that it'd be natural for me to talk to you about that we're doing or that's making us successful is totally different than what it would have been, 18 years ago or 15 years ago or 10 years ago, starting. So putting back on that hat of being small, I think some things that I tried to do was to see myself as a professional, to always think about not where we were, but where we're going to go. to spend time working on the business and not in the business. That's something that's really a key factor from the E-Myth. Being able to step away, be intentional, make some dreams, make some plans of how you're going to get there. I think the other thing is to be open-minded and thinking outside of the box. Being creative, not just kind of doing the things the way that they've always been done. You never know. I mean, look at what I was sharing with our salt business. We needed salt to take care of our current obligations. Well, in the process, if you think outside of the box, why don't we become the salt people, the salt distribution? The volume that we buy helps reduce our cost per unit, to the contracts we already have. So that becomes more profitable. And then we build more and more relationships with other contractors, with municipalities and things that wouldn't normally use our services. So just getting creative and thinking outside the box. Trying to think of what else, man. I mean,
well, that's some great advice right there.
Yeah.
Focus on the business, think about the future, be intentional with what you're doing, and always be looking for opportunities every day, because you never know where it's going to lead.
Yeah. And I think, you asked as far as like getting started, right? After you're started, then you got to start thinking about delegation, which is a whole nother art in itself. But that would be more as the business grows and it's getting beyond just what one person can do. Delegation is extremely hard. When I was in college, I was subcontracting a lot of our work because, I was in school. We actually lost clients. When we realized that what we did for people, what I had done, my personal touch was extremely high quality. May not have been profitable. I'd mow someone's lawn 3 times just to get it perfect. And, we're only getting paid to mow it once. So, but that attention to detail got us a lot of clients. And I know that there was some that when I subbed, that company they did the job. They did what I asked. They did it at a great price for me. They were really good to me, but we lost clients because they were used to a certain expectation. So I realized that kind of set us apart and that made us different. So one thing I'll add quickly is know what is unique to you. In business, you got to do one of 2 things. You either got to be cheaper than everyone else or you got to offer something that no one else offers. So when you figure out what makes you unique, you need to hone in on that. But going back to the delegation piece, it's hard to delegate when you have people that may not give that attention to detail that you've gotten everyone accustomed to. And that's where training comes in. And training takes a lot of patience. And it takes it's something I've been working on for a long time, knowing how to coach people along to get them to perform and to do things with the same heart and the same intensity that I started out with. And that can be really challenging for a business. But without it, you're never going to get bigger than what you can just do by yourself. So,
how do you get your employees to care as much as you do?
Well, I think some of it is making sure that you hire the right person. So we have a screening process that we kind of automated. That's another story in itself. But if you were to call, we have an employment hotline number that you can call anytime, listen to a recording. And we talk about all the reasons that you should want to work for our company, how awesome we are, and the benefits and, here's the perks. And then we talk about, here's the criteria. Here's some non-negotiables that we have. You got to be able to pass a drug test. You got to be able to be on time for work. You have to have a felony-free record and, that sort of thing. And if you make it to the end of that call, I think what you would realize is our culture and who we are is a little bit different than what you might expect at a typical run-of-the-mill landscaping company. So hiring off character and not necessarily experience is really important. I think I can take coachable people of good character and they can be running the company in a couple of years. I mean, there's really no limit to that. We can teach the technical part of how to do things, and we can teach horticulture and we can train through that, but we can't train someone that isn't teachable and that doesn't have that quality of character. So I think that's everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, you can't teach attitude, but you could teach skills, right?
Absolutely. Got to have the right attitude.
Very cool. Well, that's great that you figured out a system for kind of streamlining that process. I know that we've kind of incorporated some of that with your website, so I'm glad to hear that that's working for you. Let's switch gears a little bit. I wanted to ask you, at what point in your business growth did you decide you needed to invest in marketing?
Well, I think that at any size of a business, marketing is always a part of what you're doing. I mean, you've got to be bringing in, new work. There's a certain perception that you want to be known for in your community, and marketing plays a piece in that. So for me, making my first business card at 10 and 11 years old, just to have, I wasn't doing sponsored ads on Facebook. At Facebook, I don't think it existed then, but the integrity that it gave me and the pride that it gave me from having a piece of marketing that I thought truly represented my character, that essentially could be given to someone that has never met me before, and they could get to know who I am. That was important as a 10-year-old, and it's important to me now. So I've always had an investment in marketing. When we went in whole hog with your company and doing our SEO work and optimizing our website to just be outstanding and get in front of the right people, I think that was a result of just knowing that we needed to invest our money where it worked. We're not going to invest our money in the newspaper. We're not going to print flyers and post it at the grocery store bulletin board that no one looks at. We need to make sure that we're spending our advertising money in the right way. And just like most things in entrepreneurship, it was a bit of a leap of faith. We said, we're going to try it. We're going to see what happens and see if we get an ROI. And we did. So, I don't think there really is a better place to invest your marketing dollars in an online presence in the world that we live in. And I would say that it's increasingly becoming a thing that it's not age dependent. It used to be that if your target audience was, over the age of 50, then you better have a newspaper ad because those people weren't necessarily on social media. That's not the case now. They're on their iPads and, doing more virtual things than some people in their 20s. So, I think that we're really now hitting the full demographic of clients with an online presence. So I think that's super important.
Yeah, that's very true. And in your area in particular, a lot of people have like vacation homes or they're moving into the area. So as soon as they show up, they're like, okay, how do I find what I'm looking for? They pull this thing out.
That's right. That's right. Word of mouth, any business person will tell you that's one of their strongest forms of advertising is word of mouth. But, when you have people that aren't from the area, they don't spend a lot of time in the area, they may not have the luxury of getting that word of mouth from a neighbor or from friends because they really haven't established that much with not having been able to invest much time in this community. So being able to have a strong online presence that accurately represents who we are and what we're about, if that aligns with something that they find value in, and that's an absolute necessity to connecting with those people and earning their business.
Yes, exactly. I would agree wholeheartedly, obviously. So in your area in particular, the Lake Anna area, what kind of landscaping services are people most interested in?
Sure. Well, it kind of runs the whole gamut of services. So if it's okay, I'll just kind of talk about each thing that we do because obviously everything we're doing, people are buying in the Lake Anna market. So we'll start with the maintenance side of the house. So we kind of look at our company in two ways. We have installation work, we have maintenance work. So one-time projects and then ongoing relationships. With the maintenance services, we have mowing services. Guys show up every week or every 2 weeks, mow, string trim, blow off the deck and the driveway and just make it look pristine for their weekend. We have a team that does pruning and landscape maintenance. So they'll come in and trim shrubs and fertilize and care for them. They'll look for disease and insect issues. They'll clean the weeds out of the beds, just keep everything maintained, looking good, remove any debris that may have fallen from a thunderstorm or something of that nature. We have a team that does chemical lawn care. So we call that our Turfcare team. There's a 10-step program that we do throughout the year where we will fertilize, do weed control, insect, fungicide, aeration, overseeding, pretty much anything and everything you'd want to do to a lawn in the course of a year is incorporated in that program. Then we have dedicated teams that take care of 2 of our larger commercial clients that they stay on site. They report directly to those grounds each day and take care of the mowing and string trimming and all the maintenance needs for those facilities. So we've been able to just kind of scale ourselves to be able to adapt to taking care of a larger, industrial or commercial client by giving them dedicated equipment and dedicated people for their sites. So that's kind of our maintenance side of the house. The installation side of the house, we have a hardscape team. So that team builds patios, retaining walls, fire pits, walkways. We're starting to get into some outdoor kitchen work, things of that nature. So basically anything that we can build with concrete block or pavers is that bread and butter for that team. We have a landscape designer. Her name is Amy. Does a beautiful job with creating 2-scale drawings in a computer-aided drawing software that we have. And we can color those and kind of give people a little bit of a tour of what their landscape's going to look like. So we use that heavily in the hardscape side as well as a plant install side. Amy happens to have a master's degree in the field, so she is an outstanding resource for us for selecting appropriate plant material that will thrive and do well and look beautiful together. So she makes a very beautiful intentional plan for the whole landscape, including the hardscape features and the softscape features, and functionality for backyard sports and all of that sort of thing. So really, really happy and excited to have partnered with Amy for several years now, doing an amazing job for our landscape design side of the house. So from that, we have a landscape construction side, landscape installation. So they put in the plants and the trees and the shrubs and utilize that equipment. We have a excavating side, so that team does a lot of drainage and erosion work. Most of the time, anywhere you have a lake, you have people that have lakefront properties. Lakefront properties aren't always the best lots that you can imagine. Sometimes they're kind of flat before they get to the water, and they might hold water and have drainage issues. If you're near the lake and all your neighbors are higher than you, all of their water dumps onto your property and can create some erosion issues and things like that. And then you have the shoreline that needs to be stabilized so you don't lose your land out into the lake. So the excavating team works a lot with lakefront properties and taking care of their erosion and water drainage solutions. We also do gravel pads for people buy a camper and RV, or they are wanting to put up a carport or something like that. We do a lot of gravel work. We gravel driveways. And then we have the tree removal side. So pruning trees to kind of limb them up so people can get a better view of the lake is huge. We also, if the tree is dead or they just don't want it there, they're going to build a garage and they need the trees removed. We have the tree removal side, also do the stump grinding. Some people don't want to pay for stump grinding when they first get the tree down, then they're tired of looking at an ugly stump. They'll have us come in and grind the stump or take our excavator and dig it out. So I'm sure there are things that I am missing, but that's kind of by and large most of the major areas, and I'm happy to go in more depth if you have questions on any of those.
Okay, yeah, I definitely have a couple questions. The first one is about the Turfcare. So can you talk about that?
10 steps throughout the year. This is a program that I started developing when I was in college. My internship at Virginia Tech was working for a company that sold the products that we're now using to commercial landscape companies, to universities and colleges, to athletic fields, pro teams, all of that. So I really learned in my experience with that, what worked well and what didn't work well. Started building some relationships with the manufacturers and their representatives and knowing what are these brands about that are producing these products. So, you can have the best services in the world, but if you don't have good products that are backing you up, the products can make you look bad. So partnering with good companies that are producing high quality stuff has always been important to me. And from the time of my internship, selling those products has kind of been a core part of our business. So that's what's created this 10-step program. In the spring, we start off with spring fertilization, weed control, and pre-emergent for crabgrass. Crabgrass is a weed that pretty much everybody gets in our area every year. It does start from seed each year. It doesn't just survive the winter, so it dies with the frost at the end of the year. But it has already put out a bunch of seeds, so we put down this barrier that kind of keeps those seeds from germinating. So very important to get the timing right on that. And we do that in 2 different applications in the spring. We also put down a high calcium lime product. So what that is, traditional lime, a 50-pound bag, only covers but so much, but this bag that we have is the same as 4 bags of the regular lime. So we're able to get more done with less labor because we're spreading a 50-pound bag versus 200 pounds, if that makes sense. So anyways, that's our springtime applications. In the summertime, that's when we're really targeting insects and fungus. Heat and moisture make fungus, and that happens pretty much every year in any well-maintained fescue lawn. And so we've got 2 doses of fungicide, actually 3 doses of fungicide in the summer. And then we use a really high quality insecticide product called Acelepryn, which gives us a season-long control for the insects. A lot of people ask, hey, does that help with ticks and spiders and all like that? The answer is yes, but that's not really what we do it for. We're targeting lawn pests and things that are, grubs and things that are eating the roots and things that are eating the shoots of the lawn. But as a happy side effect, we are kind of reducing the stuff that are annoying to people, which is kind of cool. The fall is kind of where we get the biggest bang for our buck, for what I tell people. It's a very pivotal time. That's the time that cool season grass really wants to be pampered and have attention brought to it. So we start off with an aeration and overseeding application. We happen to have this machine that's called a seed evator. This is a really cool product that it aerates and seeds all in one motion. It has a very precise application rate of dropping just the right amount of seed right where we want it. The machine helps make sure that that seed gets in the ground so we have good seed to soil contact and really good germination. It also doesn't pull out cores or plugs, so the lawn doesn't look messy when we're done. It still maintains itself looking nice and clean. And what the research has showed is that this machine actually does a better job of loosening the soil and getting air into the soil than the traditional core aerator where you're pulling the plugs. So that was a really cool piece of technology that we invested in because I'm a turf nerd, and that's what I spend, $13,000 on as an attachment to do cool things with someone's lawn. Going back to the other fall applications, that's the time we're throwing a lot of nitrogen to the lawn. That's what it's wanting the most of during that time to really grow and put deep roots down and prepare for a really strong spring. So we have September, October, November where we're putting down a good bit of nitrogen to kind of winterize it and get it ready for next spring.
So that sounds like quite the comprehensive program. And I just wanted to verify, so all of the chemicals that you use are completely safe, yeah?
Absolutely. So there's a couple of pieces to that. One is that we're regulated by the state to be a licensed applicator for both fertilizer and pesticides. So a part of that is having good record keeping. We have to, we get audited. We have to share exactly where we applied product, how much of it we put down. We are required by law to follow the label on the product. I believe it takes either 7 or 10 years for a manufacturer to get one of their products through all of the testing and approval process of the FDA. I can't remember which organ. It might be FDA that approves this stuff. So by the time they get through their licensing and are able to get it on the shelf, this product's been tested for 10 years for its safety. And then that safety recommendation is on the label. And if we go outside of what that label says, we're violating the law. So really important that we follow that. We also have high quality equipment where we can keep our calibration on point. So it's one thing to want to follow the label and to put down the exact amount that the plant's going to need and uptake so we don't have environmental or runoff issues. It's the other thing to have the equipment to back it up. So we've invested in some really high quality sprayers and obviously good training for our applicators and the licensing process for our applicators so that we're putting down just the right amount that the plant will need, nothing more, nothing less, and that makes sure that our lake and that our community and environment as a whole remains safe.
Okay, I feel a lot better now about the chemicals.
yeah, let's just, we'll ditch that word chemicals, but yeah.
What can we call it instead?
Well, pesticides. So the word pesticide kind of encompasses anything that is a pest to a lawn. That's kind of a vocabulary thing that people think pesticide, they think about like Roundup, or they think about, a herbicide. But the term pesticide really encompasses any pest that is in competition to a lawn. So that includes your insects, it includes your diseases and viruses and funguses, and it includes the weeds that are unwanted in a space. So we can call it pesticides.
Okay, sounds good. So what happens to my yard if I don't get this process done?
Sure. Well, there's a couple of things. Most people are looking at the aesthetics of a lawn, right? So it kind of was a thing after World War II that the American dream was having a beautiful, lush lawn, and therefore the lawn care industry in America was really birthed, and has become a huge industry. So the aesthetics of it is huge. It's kind of a visually pleasing thing. It's almost therapeutic to look out and be able to enjoy looking at a lawn. If you have kids, they're going to be outside playing in it. So having a surface that's safe is huge. If your lawn is kind of sparse, you can even trip over a clump of grass. If you have a bunch of rocks exposed, things like that, it kind of creates an unsafe playing surface for your kids. Then there's the erosion and sediment, aspect of it. A well-established lawn is going to keep your property intact. It's going to make sure that you're not losing land, and that you're not, tracking mud in the house and the dogs are bringing it in and that sort of thing as well. So I would say apart from the program, there's definitely that aspect. If you're someone that likes to put on your headphones and listen to your favorite podcast on a Saturday when you mow your lawn and you love the smell of fresh cut grass, try mowing a lawn that is sparse and full of weeds, and it'll take the beauty of that all away when your face is just covered in dust. So, there's that piece too. It needs to be a joy to maintain, and needs to be almost therapeutic, enjoyable to maintain.
Those all sound like perfectly reasonable reasons. So let's say that I want to go through this process. I want to get this. How do I get it?
Sure. So on our website, you can request a quote, and we'll come out and take a measurement on the lawn. It really is square footage based. So knowing how big the property is, again, all kind of going back to calibration, we can know what our costs are for applying the products that need to be applied. So if we can come out and take a look at things and get a square footage, then we can produce that program and then review it and talk in even more depth on the 10 steps of the program.
Okay, cool. Let's see, what other, you guys do so much stuff. The hardscaping stuff is pretty interesting to me. And I never really thought of the idea of losing land into the lake, but that makes a lot of sense. And if I own lakefront property, I would definitely want to keep my land from getting absorbed into the water. So can you talk more about that, the lakefront type landscaping?
Sure. So, having a well-established lawn is important for that. So, on one side of the argument, you have people that are concerned, and maybe from misinformation, about doing a good job of caring for their lawn out of respect for the lake. And really the opposite is true. When the exact amount of product is put down, and we know that from university research and from what the labels are allowing us to do by law to apply, and having the well-calibrated equipment, we're actually enhancing the ability of the lawn to filter through that sediment, to slow down the water that affects the erosion of the lake. So like the lake erodes as well, and we want to make sure that we're maintaining the lake in a good way. We're stopping sediment, we're stopping leaves, we're stopping all of that stuff, and we're kind of providing a natural filter for water before it reaches into the lake. So keeping that healthy is important, and that's even more reason to invest in our Turfcare program. But absent from that, you absolutely will lose those things. You can have the dirt and things washing away, and then kind of going into our construction side of the company with shoreline restoration. We want to make sure that the shoreline is stabilized. So that's where we'll put in large rock or boulders kind of on the seawall, riprap or gabion stone or decorative stone to make sure that that shoreline is stabilized with proper fabrics and a decorative stone to hold it intact physically as well.
What kind of role do trees play in all this? Like, I didn't really think about it before I started writing for your website and learning about landscaping, but there's so much more that goes into this besides the erosion control from the plants and the grass. But the trees, they provide shade, they allow for like a better ecosystem. So can you talk about the trees, their role, and how you can take care of them? Because I also learned that if you cut the wrong branches off, you'll kill your trees.
Absolutely. Yeah, Treecare is a big part of what we do. It's a large part of our company. Let's look at this in two ways. We have tree removal and care, and then we have tree planting. So with the tree planting side, we'll start with that. We have nurseries across the state and even some out of state that we work with to bring in high quality trees that'll come in and be healthy and be beautiful. Last year, we actually planted our own crop of trees that we're growing to be able to sell to our clients from a start to finish kind of process. So we have about an acre of trees that are currently in production and hopefully ready to dig in the next couple of years where we can sell those. So putting the right tree in the right place is huge. So picking the right product. A lot of the times the reason people are wanting to top a tree or to butcher it into where it wouldn't be healthy for its survivability is because it's in the wrong place. It's hanging over the driveway. It's blocking their view of the lake. It's getting into the septic field if they have a septic system. So picking the right tree that's going to get the right mature size, that's going to give you the leaves that you're looking for, and just, not block views and be a nuisance is really important. Getting the right tree and putting it in the right place. So that's from the tree planting side. From the tree removal side, yes, pruning in the right place is important. Part of our training packet we have for our guys, we have like a 2-pager from Virginia Tech that talks about don't top trees. And also on crepe myrtles, they say don't commit crepe murder. So people take crepe myrtle trees and kind of top them and things like that. So very important. I'll spare you the fine details on why that is. You can look it up on Virginia Tech's website. But pruning properly is really important so you don't get the water sprouts in the weak wood. It causes kind of a conduit or a pathway for disease and insects to get into the tree. Making sure we get air into the canopy, that sort of thing, that wind can blow through it well and not blow the tree over. That's a part of thinning. And so that can really be helpful in intentional action you can take so that you're prepared for storms and so on and so forth.
All right, awesome. I've learned some more stuff about trees today. So, man, we've covered a lot of services here. What does the future look like for Wesley Chiles and Chiles Enterprises? I'm happy to hear that you guys are growing your own trees. That's really cool. That sounds like you're starting new avenues all over the place, but I don't think you're doing it like without a plan in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of my biggest things is just to be a good employer. I want to make sure that my guys have a plan to grow. If they have a growth mindset. I am a small business. I mean, we employ just under 30 people right now, compared to other companies that employ several hundreds. For us to be able to compete on that level is huge. So offering the benefits, offering the company culture and the environment of growth and the ability and opportunity for them to advance is huge. So that's a lot of my personal focus. Now, a part of that is we have to grow our sales and we have to expand our offerings to clients so that we have things for those people to do. And so that comes to life. The two really go hand in hand. So, I think that's kind of my bigger focus. So as a part of growing our sales and offering more and more services to our clients and trying to become more profitable by getting directly to the source, as I mentioned with the salt business or with growing our own trees, we want to try to produce things and eliminate some middlemen if we can, so there's a little more meat on the bone. That helps us to fuel our growth.
Very cool. Well, if I lived in your area, I would definitely come apply for a job. It sounds like a great place to work.
Thank you. We're trying.
Well, I think you're succeeding.
Thank you.
So,
but was going to say with the future growth and stuff of the company, there are things that we're trying to expand into with the right people. So currently we don't offer masonry services. So being able to do veneer stone on the outside of a home or even the inside on a fireplace or an outdoor kitchen. We don't currently offer that service, but we really want to. We also don't offer irrigation services. So installing an irrigation system or doing maintenance on it. And that's a side that we want to branch into as well. So those are kind of some things that are on the horizon for us from a company growth standpoint. We also are, as we grow, we're outgrowing our space of our current shop. Right now we have 2 shop spaces, and then we have our shops that are dedicated commercial clients that I mentioned earlier. But with our 2 shop spaces, we're running out. So we hope to invest in a new facility that's going to be a little bit closer to Lake Anna. Right now, we're about a 20-minute drive to where our core customer base is. So being closer will certainly help us with our efficiencies of downtime, but also with proper road frontage, we hope to really grow the retail side of our company where we could have a storefront that the community could come to and get expert advice on products. As I mentioned earlier, the products are so important and having the right quality of products, but they're also getting the advice of people that have used it for 20 years. And we can make sure we're pointing them in the right direction and making good use of their money, investing in the right product. So I do foresee kind of a retail or re-wholesale future for us as well with our new facility.
Super cool. I'm excited to see how that unfolds, and I appreciate being able to be a part of it just from the marketing side.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're a part of our team, man.
So don't worry if you don't, but do you have any questions for me about, what we do for marketing or anything like that?
Well, there's so many things as a business owner that I've got to put my time and attention to. And we touched on a lot of the things that we've got, a lot of the irons that we have in the fire. So knowing that we have somebody that, wakes up in the morning and thinks about marketing is huge. So we appreciate you being a part of what we do. I'm not one to mess with success. You've done a good job for us. So, not hearing much from me is probably a good thing because I know that and I trust that you're doing an awesome job. I have toyed around with a couple of questions. One is kind of like the Google ads, right? So you can see these sponsored Google ads. Are they really worth the investment? Are they worth the money? Personally, I'm someone that I ignore those ads. I don't want someone buying my, attention. I don't listen to TV commercials at all. In fact, if it's on the TV, I'm never the one that calls the 800 number and buys it. I have no idea how that works. So you tell me, are Google ads worth investing in, or just better to get to the top organically?
So that's a great question, and I get it all the time. And the first thing I would say is Google makes over $100 billion per quarter from their ads. So they definitely work, or else they wouldn't be making so much money from it. I don't know what the exact statistic is, but I think it's something like 40% of people just pass right over the ads and skip them. You do, I do. I've never liked seeing the word ad there. I always felt like I wanted to find it on my own. And so by going further down the Google screen and finding something on my own, I felt like I was finding a better option. So I think showing up organically, meaning anywhere but the ads, is definitely a priority for me. But ads definitely work. And, just take you guys, for example, we have you showing up in the Google Maps box, and then we have you showing up below in the organic search. To run ads would just mean you were showing up in 3 places instead of 2. And so I think it would definitely help. And the key would be to be able to track how much you're putting into it and then be able to gauge what you're getting out of it and see if it's profitable for you.
Sure. I think that's something Google does well, is give you the analytics and give you the tracking to know what your ROI is on what you're spending on those ads. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely. Google does a certain amount of it, but a certain amount will happen in your sales process. So being able to track where they came from and then which ones turn into sales and all of that kind of stuff is important.
Sure.
Part of the advantage of using ads is that you can actually target like a city that you don't show up in organically. So it's a really good way to like stretch out your reach beyond what you're already covering.
Sure. Let me ask you, is there a particular demographic that is those 60% of people that do pay attention to those ads, or do you know who those people are?
I don't know if it's a specific demographic, like age-wise, but I think it's just, you know, certain people. If you're a marketer, if you're a businessman, you understand ads more than somebody that isn't in that world at all. But I don't know. I think it might be more of a temperament thing of some people like to find stuff on their own. Some people just want to grab the first thing they see and be done with it real quick. Some people would even view ads as a positive and say, okay, if this company's buying ads, then they're legit enough to buy ads, then they're probably professional.
Sure.
So it just depends on your market, I think.
Yeah. My wife is working on her PhD in communications, and a lot of her undergrad work has been in business communications and understanding what makes people decide to buy and things like that. And anyways, I would love to see some research on who those 60% of people are and what are their disc personality types or whatnot, to understand like what target demographic are we getting from those people that do find value in the Google ads, and then who's like you and me where they just skip past it and it would be a big waste of money for me as a company if I'm trying to reach the people like you and me. I'd love to see that research if anybody ever does it.
Well, hey, if she's doing her PhD, then she has to write a thesis paper. So here's a perfect opportunity. We could run ads for you, and then you guys can carefully measure who's calling about those ads and make profiles of them.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
So as a landscaping company, competition is thick. There's always new competitors popping up. There's old competitors around. How do you deal with what it's like to have competition?
That's a good question, and I think that competition is something that's always going to be around. It's a very good thing. I think that we kind of make each other better, in a spirit of competitiveness. It used to be when I was, more immature in my faith walk, that those having competitors really bothered me, especially competitors that might, exude some jealousy or, not really know me that well, and maybe would jump to a conclusion of who I am or what I stand for and what I'm about. And, what I learned is I got to be able to forgive. I've got to be able to let things like that go. I got to love the person. It's kind of one of those things that you don't hate the sinner, you hate the sin. And so I've learned to, kind of forgive any ways that maybe competitors that have painted me in a negative light or done something to make a mockery of our company or anything of that nature. And that's just helped me, as an individual, be able to cope with those things because they're going to happen. You can't control the actions of other people. Now with that, if I have the ability to interact with those people, that means that I can truly love them. I mean, I can truly be kind and, be friendly and be cordial if I'm in contact with those people, whether they have wronged me or not. I have a lot of competitors that, have kind of become friends, and we have great relationships. We have respect for one another. The way I see it, if someone is willing to get up in the morning and work hard all day in this industry, this is a tough industry. There's a blue collar work ethic, a white collar mentality. It is hard work, and I have respect and admiration, regardless of the fine details that might make us differ in the way that we run our businesses. If they're willing to work hard, I've got respect for them, and I can be kind and be cordial to those people. So obviously, I appreciate competitors that treat us with respect and treat us fairly and sell based on their value alone and not based on putting the other companies down. I tip my hat to those people, and we try to do the same.
That's a great way to look at it. And the spirit of competition is how everybody gets better. So focusing on what you have in common is a good, it's like a good approach to having competition. And I think, having like an abundance mindset of knowing there's plenty of lawns to mow, there's plenty of trees to take care of, we can all coexist. That kind of attitude, it breeds camaraderie and like kinship. And it also shines through what you do, your work, and to your customers, so that, if there's a company over here that's trying to get ahead by attacking other companies, and then the company they're attacking is taking the high road and just focusing on the positive things, they'll end up being more successful anyways, I think.
Absolutely. And for us, our first priority is helping people. So we want to make sure that our clients are well taken care of. If there's a company that's able to do that better than we are, we're good with it, because our ultimate goal is we want to help our clients. Do we think we're the best solution for those clients? Absolutely, we do. And we've honestly had times on several occasions where clients have left our company, switched to a different company, and then come back. They realized that the grass wasn't necessarily greener. They found value in doing business with us and doing and supporting our company in the way that we do it. We're not the cheapest guys on the block, man. We're not the lowest bid. But we are not really focused on price. We're focused on doing a really high quality job. We're focused on the client relationship. We're focused kind of on that end goal. Money is just a side effect. We have to make money to be sustainable. We are smart about it. We're intentional about it. I have an accountant and an ops manager. That's what they do. They look at money. They make sure that we're going to be in business for a long, long time. But our first priority is helping people. So if they feel like they can get a better quality of service switching to another company, then, we're happy for them.
I share that exact same mentality. It's all about the end result for my customers. And if there's another better way, like I'll be the first one to point them in that direction or to facilitate that process. So
absolutely.
It's cool to hear you say that.
It's really understanding what is important to the client. What do they value? Not every customer is your ideal customer. If a client values just getting something as cheap as they absolutely can, then hey, that's totally fine. If you're buying a can of Coca-Cola, you're going to buy the same can if you pay $2 or if you pay 50 cents in the drink machine. It really doesn't matter, right? It's still just a can of Coca-Cola. But, on other things, the experience is everything. It's worth paying a little bit more to have someone that returns your phone call, or to have someone that just randomly drops by your property and looks it over and gives you a phone call to let you know, hey, I think this is doing well and I think this could do better. And, having that relationship. Also, people that can write good emails. That's important to some people. Some people have a pet peeve of folks that don't use good grammar and punctuation in their communications, or just aren't good communicators. And, we try to offer that too. It's really understanding what's important to the client. And, if that's something that we can meet, then great. If it's not something, we're happy to point you in the right direction of people that are companies that we do think would be a good fit to get them where they want to be.
So the spirit of competition, it's good for your customers, but it's probably also good for your employees. So what's it like working at Chiles Enterprises, and why would people want to work there?
Well, one of my main focus now, as I've been able to grow in business, I've been able to delegate out a lot of things that I used to do myself. One thing that I haven't delegated is being a good employer. That is really kind of a number one priority for me. I know that apart from having good people, we're not able to help our clients, right? So I want to make sure that we're hiring people based on character, that we have people of high quality, that are teachable and that are coachable, that believe in this. In Dave Ramsey's book, EntreLeadership, he talks about this hybrid mentality of entrepreneurs and leaders. You want someone that's entrepreneurial minded, that's going to make it their own, that's going to treat it like it's theirs, that's going to put in the sweat and have the grit to get it done. But they also understand the value of working in a team environment. They don't want to be in their own business. They don't want to be strictly entrepreneurs, because they want to work together in a collaborative effort. But that's the entree part. Then the leader part. What does it mean to be a good leader? What does it mean to be able to carry a team, to coach people along, to encourage them to accomplish a task? So we want entree leaders, right? We want people that are going to have an entrepreneurial mindset, that are going to have the leadership to pull other people along beside them to get tasks done. So I'm big on leadership. I'm big on investing in someone that I see is investing in us. If you believe in our company, the company's going to believe in you. Together, we're going to have a win-win, and we're going to be working together for a long, long time. Some of the cool parts of our company that I think makes us different from other landscape opportunities that people would have is that we offer so many different types of services. You can kind of get your feet wet and dabble in the maintenance side and the installation side. You can go with the pruning team and learn all about pruning and tree and shrub care. You can go with the construction team and learn all about excavating and pitches and slopes, drainage and erosion control. You can build a retaining wall and learn hardscapes and become ICPI certified and really know everything there is to know about pavers and paver driveways and all of that sort of thing. So for someone that likes landscaping and kind of wants to get the full gamut of experience, because we have such a diverse offering to our clients, that means we have a diverse experience that an employer could have. We are well established. This is my 19th year in business. We plan to be in business for a long time. We've been growing steadily at about 20% per year in sales. So as the company grows, we have more and more services that we want to offer our clients. And then the services we're already offering our clients, we're starting to duplicate our team. So instead of having one crew, we're having two, or instead of having two, we're having 3 or 4 crews. So we need people that see the value in working for a growing company and get excited about that. The other piece of, being excited to come to work is just our culture, our core values, who we are and what we're about. We have a list of core values that are published on our site and that we talk about every Monday during that leadership meeting. And, that really encompasses the environment of who we are and what we're about. So someone that's excited to work in a good place, for someone that, my wife and I pray over this team every single day. We pray for their safety. We pray for their encouragement, their excitement, good decisions. We're going to invest in our people, and we want them to invest in us. Like I said, together, it's going to be a win-win for a very long time. I want people that I'll hire that will retire.
So what does the hiring process look like? If I wanted to work at Chiles Enterprises, how would I go about starting that?
Sure. So we have an employment hotline number, 540-748-8357. That's a recording that you can call anytime. And it talks about, here are all the reasons why you should want to work for our company. It talks a bit about our benefits and our hours and what we're looking for. Then it also says, here's the catch. Here's our non-negotiables. Here are things that we need you to meet in order to work here. At the end of the phone call, there's specific instructions on how to apply. And if you follow those instructions, you're guaranteed to have an interview with me. And from that interview, we'll bring you back in for a second interview if we really like you, and get you started off in the right on the right team. As a part of that second interview, we also lay out the roadmap to success. We talk about it in the recording, but the roadmap to success is understanding what the goals are of the individual that we're hiring, and talking also about the needs that we have as a growing company, and trying to map out what that success looks like for a win-win relationship. So we can take them and say, well, based on your current experience or education, here is where you are. If you want to grow, here's where you need to go, and here's all the benchmarks for pay along the way. So then we follow that up with regular meetings to discuss how well are they doing certain aspects of training, or reaching certain credentials or licensing that is a part of that roadmap, and getting them to where they want to go. And as a company, that's where we want to go as well. When we have people that are I don't want to call it near the end of that roadmap, because we're just going to make that map longer and longer. But as they approach, getting more senior in that leadership role, that allows us to really reach and meet our goals as a company to grow and expand and have more product offerings and service offerings to our customers.
This path to success that you've developed, is that something that you came up with on your own?
I'm not sure. It's something we've been doing for several years, probably 5 or 6 years. We have made it better and tweaked it over time. I think, Chuck, it comes back to that word intentionality that we've been talking about. If I want to make sure that someone's going to work with me until they retire, I really need to have some clarity for them on what that looks like. If I want to grow a business to $10 million in sales, I need some clarity on what that looks like. So just kind of being intentional and defining the process of how we're going to get there, and then tweaking it. That's really hard to know what it's going to look like to run at that level, right? It's hard to dream that big and know exactly and have clarity on exactly what that's going to look like and what's going to take to get there. But every journey starts with the first step. So kind of getting that mapped out and then constantly revisiting it and tweaking it and making it better. The Bible talks about how like our relationship with the Lord, or how the Word of God is like a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. If you think about a lamp, it really doesn't illuminate but so far. It doesn't show you the whole path. It just shows you the next couple of steps. So I think just having that lamp and just being obedient in those coming steps that you can see, and that's that fine-tuning and tweaking process, is okay, and it's important. Not being able to know exactly what it looks like to run at that high level is all right, but knowing you want to get there, you got to have that too. So.
Yeah, that's something that I've realized throughout this entrepreneurship journey is you never understand what is going to be required at the next level until you get there. And then once you get there, you can look down and see all the other levels and see them really clearly. Yeah. So do you ever have any thoughts of writing a book someday?
Not really. I've never really thought about, some of the books I've read, they talk about that leaders are readers. And in fact, that was Al Mohler wrote that in a book that I read from him recently. I can't think of the name of it, but leaders are readers. I'm not a big reader, to be honest with you. Reading is never something that I really enjoy doing. I like speaking, and therefore I like writing, because writing is just kind of like you speak. I like storytelling, but I've never, my mind, I'm kind of ADD. So my mind's on three things at once all the time. So while I'm reading, I'm also like planning something at work, or, my mind is somewhere else. So reading's kind of challenging for me, but I do read, I do try to get that in, but I think because of reading has always kind of been in a negative light for me, I've never really thought about writing a book. I will say that, like, the future for me that I know of, or I don't know, I mean, no one knows what the future holds, but some of the goals that I have in mind is I want to make this company to where it can run in its entirety without my daily presence. I love what I do. I love every aspect of it, but I also want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband. And I want to be obedient to whatever the Lord has for me in the next stage and chapter of life. I know that as we grow, my role and my responsibility in this company is going to look different. So I am trying to train my replacement, if you will, and I wear a lot of hats. So I have a lot of hats that I'm training replacements in. Again, we're talking about career advancement and opportunity for people that come to work here. As I kind of hand off those roles and those responsibilities, that's opportunities for other people to grow and move up in the organization. But ideally, I would just like to be the entrepreneur. I would just like to kind of be having that longer term vision and talk strategy and, solve some of the high level, problems and things that we'll face, challenges that we'll face in growth. And I'd like to just kind of help map that out and be the entrepreneur. But from the day-to-day operations, I would love to have people that are kind of filling those roles. And we're already on a really good start to that. And I think that as we get there and that becomes more and more solid, who knows what that might free time up for. I've thought about going into some consulting. I've thought about doing more, directly with ministry and things like that. But I definitely want to use the experiences that I've had over the last, almost 20 years to help other people and to encourage them. I'm a big encourager. I took a personality test and I realized that that's who I am. I like I like, making sure that everyone's playing well in the sandbox, that people are happy, that they're built up, that they're encouraged. That's kind of my gifting, I guess, in some ways. So I want to make sure that I'm using that and I'm helping as many people as I can.
That's great, man. I have no doubt if people in Lake Anna listen to this podcast, they're going to be like, I want that company to come take care of my yard. But can you just encapsulate why people in your area choose you guys as their landscaping contractor?
Oh man, thank you for that question. I think people that find value in who they're doing business with, that's something that we offer. So what we're about, the character of our people, from the estimator to the person that you're dealing with in our accounting side, to the guys that are showing up to get the work done, to the guy that's coming in to give you that final checklist and punch list of items to make sure that the project is put to bed. The character of our people is huge. So knowing that you're employing people of high integrity, that are going to treat you with respect and that will value the investment that you've made in spending money with our company. That's who we are. That's what we're about. And that's clients that we want to work for. I think that clients will also find a lot of value in the diverse offerings that we have. We have so many different services that we provide. I never wanted to be someone that was a jack of all trades and master of none. I wanted to master everything that I did. And so we slowly have become really, really good at everything that we offer, or we don't offer it. So while we offer a lot of things, I also think we're really good at all of those things. So for someone that's got a second home that's not there, we have the maintenance services, right? So we can keep things maintained even though they're not there and not home to do those things themselves, or maybe they're not physically able to do things like that themselves. So we can do the mowing, we can do the mulching and the pruning and making sure things stay tamed. But then when they really want to invest in that home and they really want to make it their own, they want to put in new landscaping, they want to have an outdoor living area, they want to put a beach in at the, down by the water so they can sunbathe, or, maybe they have environmental issues like erosion or standing water, or they're getting water in their basement, something like that, because we've got that maintenance relationship with them, we're naturally their first call to take care of problems like that. And they know that they're going to get the same dignity, the same respect, the same high quality level of people and high quality service that they get from our maintenance services. So kind of having that one call to make that can make sure that you're getting it done right, and that we have the client's best interest in mind, that our goal and our priority is to help people. We make money secondary to that. Everything else kind of comes secondary to that. The Bible says, love God, love your neighbor. Love your neighbor is really a very, very key and component that's at the forefront of everything that we're doing here as a company. And, our crew, regardless of their faith affiliations, all can get behind loving their neighbor. And so that's what we lead with. That's what we start with. And I think that if a client gives us the opportunity to earn their business, they're going to find that is kind of a common thread with any crew that comes out, with any estimator that we have that comes out, in any interaction they have with our company, that we want to love them well, we want to take care of their needs, and we've got the resources and the manpower and the expertise to do it really well.
And so I could tell one of your core values is to love your neighbor. What other core values do you guys try to embody at Chiles Enterprises?
Sure. Give me just a second. I'm going to bring my screen closer so I don't look like I'm... All right, well, we have 4 core values, and then we have some things that kind of spring off of that. So love your neighbor, collaborate, be agile, and thrive are our 4. But to talk about each one in a little more depth, with love your neighbor, think like customers, act like owners. So we talked about the entree leader, right? We talked about what it means to really make it your own. And so we want to think like a customer. We want to treat it like it's our property and do it really well. We also want to act like owners. So that's kind of where my team members can kind of love me, right? They need to have respect for me. They need to have respect for our vision and what it takes for us to be successful as a company. So they have to also kind of think like an owner. So finding that hybrid, that relationship of where those two things meet, to where we're respecting our clients, we're also respecting the the needs of us as a company, is huge. So love your neighbor. Stewardship is something that I'm huge on. As I mentioned, we're entrusted with a lot of things. We're thankful for that. We're entrusted with financial resources. We're entrusted with relationships, with equipment. We're entrusted with our interpersonal relationships and with our teammates. So we want to be good stewards of those things that we've been entrusted with. That's also a part of loving your neighbor. And then profitability creates opportunity. We know that if we make money, if we're profitable, that is money that we can use to do two things. We can bless people with it. 10% of our profits go to ministry, so we're able to do that, and very intentionally. But it's also an opportunity to use profits to grow our company and to make more and more opportunities to provide more service offerings to our clients, or to employ more people, to give opportunity for advancement for our people. So profitability creates opportunity, all a part of loving your neighbor. Under collaboration, enthusiastically rally together and meet the goal. We're big on teamwork. As I mentioned, we have so many different types of services we offer. We want to make sure that people are that come to work here are excited about that fact, that are excited to have camaraderie with the other divisions, that they can kind of give a handoff. Say the guy's out mowing the lawn and he notices that there's a low spot that's ponding water. That might be a strong referral to our excavating side to put in some drain boxes or something of that effect. So just kind of having that relationship amongst the team, and also that they're going to work together to meet the goal. We just finished our sixth snowstorm for 2021, and it's only February. We have had people that have worked the extra hour, gone the extra mile, really pulled together and had teamwork. If someone was tired, man, they pitched right in and helped them out. So rallying together to meet the goal, whatever those goals are. Learning from others daily, kind of staying hungry for education, staying humble, knowing that there's always something more we can learn. There's always something more we can advance on. Everyone in the company has a learning objective. So there's always something that each of us are working on. So a part of that roadmap to success that we talked about, and what it takes to be successful in our company, and how to get from point A to point B as an individual trying to grow their career, and also for us as a company trying to grow our company, knowing that there's always something to learn. From the person that is running a weed eater to me as the head of the team here, we all have learning objectives. So staying hungry and making sure that we're learning from each other is huge. And embracing community, not isolation. I think that we were created to live in community and not by ourselves. So if someone has something that's on their mind or on their heart that's bothering them, we encourage them to come forward with that we can talk about it. If there's anything they're struggling with, maybe personally or professionally, that they know that we encourage that communication, that they shouldn't keep that to themselves. Part of our benefits package is we have an incentive for counseling. So if someone has something in their life going on that they need some professional, help with, want to talk it through, we actually kind of give a stipend to fund their first session, and maybe some more than that, depending on the cost of that session, so that they're getting that community and they're not living in isolation with whatever they may be trying to cope with. Being agile. With being agile, organized but flexible. We want to be organized. We want to have a plan. Everyone has goals. We have daily goals. We have weekly goals. We have quarterly and yearly goals. So we are organized in the fact that everyone knows what their tasks are and what needs to be accomplished. But we also have to be flexible with those things, because we know by 10 o'clock, all of that can go out the window. We've got to be able to rebound from that, to regroup, get ourselves back on track, because that's life. So organized but flexible. The next one is my favorite, and one that I find I always have to explain: perpetual pioneering ambition. And the best way to describe that is to go one by one. Perpetual, meaning it perpetuates itself. It's an ongoing thing. One thing helps lead to the next thing, helps lead to the next thing. So we want to be ongoing and pioneering. Pioneering, Virginia Tech's motto is invent the future. So a plug for the Virginia Tech Hokies. I love that saying, invent the future. We're going to pioneer the way. We're going to do something in this county, in this area that's never been done before. And we love our team members that get excited about doing that with us. So ongoing, inventing the future, ambition, just having that drive, having that grit and that determination to do something that's never been done before. That's all part of being agile, being able to grow and to adapt as we change, as we grow, and as we do something that's never been done before. The other part of agility is to think bigger. So often we think too small. We try to put something in a box, or we don't take time to kind of step away and really think about what are our like 3 different alternatives to how this could go, or how we could do this. How are we contributing to the bigger picture? Is this kind of adding up to meet our future plans and our intentional growth that we're trying to have? So think bigger is something that we find ourselves saying all the time as we're faced with problems and need to come up with solutions. We've got to think bigger and not think too small, and that helps fuel our growth. The last core value we have, thrive, exceeding expectations of self and others beyond measure. So we want to know everyone has expectations, right? There's expectations I have of people that employ me. There's expectations clients have of our company. We want to not only just meet those expectations, but we want to knock them so far out of the park that it can't even be measured. There's a client that we got last year that said, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago when I was a kid, that I volunteered in the community for, they had a common area and they had a beach, and they were putting in these little posts and a little chain to kind of fence off their playground area, for the safety of the kids. And they said when I was, 14 or whatnot, and I had that tractor, my first tractor, I came out there and I volunteered to dig the holes for them to put those posts in. And I didn't know this guy. He must have been a part of the volunteer effort. But here we were over a decade later, and he wanted to do business with us because of that little effort that we did there to help out the community. So we want to make sure that we're exceeding expectations so far that we can't even think big enough to measure it. So grow personally, professionally, then creatively. This is huge for our staff here. We want to make sure that they're in a good place personally. That's we talked about the counseling benefit we have for our guys. We have health insurance for them, dental and Aflac, and all of these things to make sure that their personal lives are smooth and are well and are healthy. If their personal life's in order, then we can't go to the next step. So each step has to go in order. The next piece is professionally. We want people that are going to grow, that are going to learn, that are going to take part of our ongoing education that we do, our internal our internal training and our external training. So they're growing professionally. Then we want them to grow creatively. We want them to be able to help us grow the company, to think outside of the box, to give us a different perspective on how we can do things. So we always make sure that we follow that order, and ultimately they get to create what the future of our company looks like, which is really kind of exciting. And then lastly, under Thrive, obedience creates greatness. So just kind of being obedient to the process, to being disciplined, to kind of follow the things that we know we need to do, to put in that hard work and to stay disciplined to the process. We know that that's going to create greatness. And beside that, I have 1 Corinthians 2:9. I don't have that as a scripture, as a memory verse, but just being obedient to that, I think that we won't even be able to imagine the amazing things that are in store for us by following these processes.
Make sure I'm not on mute. Wow, man, that's really amazing stuff. I imagine it was years in the making of coming up with all of these core values and really narrowing them down to exactly what they are.
It absolutely was. It was something that I knew we needed to create core values for a long time, and I never did, because I was like, how in the world am I going to get all this to 4 key points or to 1 page or whatnot? And quite frankly, something that's kind of burdening me is that I essentially have 12 of them, it's not 4, because each one has 3 things where we expand upon it. And, the attention span of our generation is so short. I feel like I need to condense it more and more. But there's so many things that I just talked about in those core values that I think are just absolutely important to share with people to know this is who we are, this is what we're about as a company. So I don't know there's but so much consolidation I can do on it, but
yeah, well, there's that many things because they're all that important, but it does beg an important question. How do you reinforce these things at your company?
I think a lot of these are just going to come naturally. And maybe it's because I'm the one that kind of created these core values. They come naturally to me. They may not come naturally to other people. That's something that is something that I've learned over the years, that everyone was raised differently. Everyone's parents kind of taught them maybe a little different perspective to look at the world, or a little different way to treat people, or a different worldview to have on life. And this is our worldview as a company. So we want to be aligned with that. One thing is just kind of communicating it over and over and over again. Again, going back to Al Mohler in his book, he's talking about a good leader really has the same message over and over and over again. It's consistency. So making sure that we are always putting this in front of our people, that we're talking about it in our gatherings, that when there is times of praise or times of coaching, that we are always pointing back to these core values and how they relate to the environment or the situation that we might find ourselves in as we interact with our team members is huge. I find myself talking about these core values in interviews that I do with people. They might say something and it'll be like, oh, well, that's awesome that you did this at your other employer. One of our core values is to, think bigger. And I love that, you took the initiative to do this at your current employer. So when you really have these kind of memorized, they just find their way of creeping into conversations that you have at work.
It's interesting to have defined core values, not just as an individual, but as a company. And just based upon everything you've told me in this podcast and working with you for a few years, I'd say that it's definitely having a really positive impact.
Thank you.
So, Wesley, we've covered a lot of things, and I've learned a lot, and I think that anybody who listens to this will get a ton of value from it. So is there anything that you want to leave off with for people that are listening?
I need a timeout for a second.
No problem.
Man, you keyed that up so well, but I guess we can cut this part out.
Yeah, it's all good.
I'm getting exhausted. I don't know, because we're going to kind of take this and put it into a bunch of small pieces, right? So no one's going to watch this full thing all the way through.
Well, no, I'll cut out some of the parts, but I'll have like a podcast format where someone could listen to the whole conversation.
Oh, okay.
Almost the whole conversation.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. Action. Now, Chuck, I really appreciate the conversation we've been able to have today. Hopefully anyone that's listening has gotten a good insight to seeing my heart and, kind of who I am, what I'm about, what I stand for, and, what we're doing as a company, what I'm trying to do as a leader. So, that's my hope and prayer, is that someone has good transparency into who I am, what I stand for, what I feel that I'm called to do, and knowing that I'm trying to do everything I can to be obedient to that calling and to do it as well as I possibly can. Paul says, not I, but Christ. I just want to be obedient to what the Lord has given me, be a good steward of the resources He's put in front of me, and hopefully, anyone that sees me will just see the work of the Lord through me, and just know that I'm trying to be obedient to that. My only aim is to finish the race and complete the task that the Lord's put in front of me. So,
awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today, Wesley. Again, everybody, this is Wesley Chiles of Chiles Enterprises LLC, Landscaping, Treecare, and Turfcare, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, Wesley, and thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks.